pen.
Perfect.
And also you can get it from SPD Books from the bookstore in Berkeley has it also. The
Perfect, Sarah. Well, thank you so very much.
Distributions.
I will briefly, read just this bio, but other books by Sarah White include Iridescent Guest, the one that we are celebrating tonight that has a lovely green cover. Yeah. And that was published by, thank you, that's what I was looking for. It is beautiful. Published by Deerbrook Editions 2020. That is why we started this Thursday book launch for poets that have a book coming out during a pandemic. It's not easy to sell poetry books in the best of times, and I think that it's not an understatement to say these is far from the best of times. Her other books include To One Who Bends My Time, Wars Don't Happen Anymore, The Unknowing Muse, Alice, Ages and Ages, and Cleopatra Haunts the Hudson. And it just list goes on and on. I am going to be swift to turn it over though, because what we are here today to do is to listen to Sarah White. So join me in welcoming Sarah, and I will make you a spotlight. There you are.
Oh boy, very exciting. This is absolutely wonderful. As I was rehearsing, I wasn't thinking in my mind of having so many friends listening. So many friendly listeners. So I gave you the name of my very nice, fine publisher, and you can, so you know how to get the book, and to get it signed, we'll just have to wait until something, as I say, till something wonderful happens and we can meet. The book has, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. It's got a mix of poems about the arts in general, the two that I practice, writing and painting, and also a little bit about music. And it relies rather heavily for its spirit on a book called The Art Spirit, which is a book of notes and advice to creative people from the painter Robert Henry, who was a member of the so-called Ashcan school, and just conceivably might have taught my mother at the Art Students League, conceivably. So the first section of the book is called The Art Spirit, and I'll start with the first poem. Let your work be a surprise to you, as if the game were to fish words from a brook with a seine or a slotted spoon, bug, scum, weed, leaf, as if from upstream came a fly, trap fly, a royal coachman my brother tied toward the end of his life. Trim feathers floating like a grief between the surface and the weeds underneath. And I'm going to go right on and read the second poem, Rock, Paper, and Broom. A sweeper gathers coins from the floor of the fountain. The ocean god looks on, glad to have more space for water and less for wishes gathered before dawn, given to the poor of Rome. A rabbi pries with a broom slips of paper from the western wall, which needs no paper as mortar. What about the prayers drawn from a pilgrim's soul and tucked between the stones? Too holy for the poor. They are buried beside worn sidurs and scriptures. My own paper wish was whisked away by a sweeper who told me to visit the wall and pray with the women. But Hashem didn't listen when I began to speak of beauty and joy in a poem. The words wouldn't come. They needed to be changed and chanted like a psalm. So I threw in a little humor here based on a sentence of Robert Henry's about Walt Whitman. He wrote, "Nobody wanted Walt Whitman, but Walt Whitman wanted himself." Seeing a tan and white pigeon peck at a weed or a worm on the walk in front of my building, I conclude that the creature wouldn't be here if his mother were one of those bird brains who lays her eggs on a slanted roof. She must have wanted this pigeon as much as it wanted himself. One of my literary obsessions, as people who know me know, is the troubadours, the medieval, the 12th and 13th century troubadours, who, as a lot of people don't know, were also very often knights, warriors, crusaders, as well as poets. But they wrote some very, very original things, and that's what this is about. Once the troubadour went crusading, carousing, cruising, sword in hand. The pretty wives of petty rivals signaled from high windows. Riding south against the pagans, he flashed his blade at random Jews. As William of Aquitaine, sworn servant of the cross, he composed on horseback a song of pure nothing. The tune stirred the wind stirred a storm that soaked his saddlebags and the ink on his maps. From that day on, in Christendom, the road to Jerusalem lay blurred and hidden. More about troubadours. I, who never learned to long. For the troubadour's longing was loving in its noblest form. Love from afar made words into poems, made melodies arise from the score. Soon after the last World War, my widowed mother traveled to France every year, leaving me in the care of the maid. When I wasn't in school, I would play in the park and a neighbor would say, "I'll bet you'll be glad when your mother comes home." Of course, you old bat, I'll be glad when she's home. Glad to be shown her new French clothes, glad to hear of her afternoons on the shores of the river Adour. When the traveler returned, she told everyone how happy we were, she and I. And at the time, I believed her. So I thought I'd throw in a little amateur theology called Credo of the Wishful. I want the moon and sun to circle me. I want Ptolemy and Copernicus, both in charge of orbits. I want a mother-father combo, one kind person watching from above, and I want freedom from parental figures, be they ever so heavenly. I want it all. A sense of gratitude to the Creator and a critical attitude to blunders made by him or her. Pandemics, wars, earthquakes, elections. Voltaire told us in the Age of Reason to cultivate our gardens without asking questions. Friday evenings, my friend and I light blue-footed flames while singing Baruch Hu. We don't know who to. Oh, songs. Oh, transformations, choral anthems, simple hymns, lead kindly light. Take thou my feet, I do not ask to see beyond amen. A common cadence coming at the end. Maybe I better go on to the second section, which is about animals. Philosophical animals, it's called. And I'll start with the poem that explains the title of the book. Hummingbird Flower Friend. It has a Portuguese word in it, in case you hear a word that you don't know. It's Portuguese, and you'll probably know what it means. Hummingbird flower friend. His slim tongue sips from secret pools underneath the petals. Iridescent guest and host together resemble a single multicolored flower, beija flor. Until the honey-drunk, pollen-powdered visitor flies off on another errand. You and I, like branch and vine, are intertwined for reasons I decline to explain. And this is called Forests of Sweetness, Gardens of Sorrow. Think of two captive pandas, unhappy, though they don't know why. To us, they look so cozy in their chocolate and vanilla jackets. Did you know vanilla is an orchid? Difficult and diffident, in need of expertise to propagate its tasty bean. If your vanilla grows in the Antilles, you must rise early and seize the dawn, when the orchid yawns like a little trumpet, and you can intervene between the pollen-bearing stamen and the sticky, feminine anther before they sink into the flower forever. One morning in Guadeloupe, I met a gardener carrying a Q-tip and a Creole dictionary. The natural pollinators of vanilla, he told me, were stingless bees, the Melipomene, driven to extinction by stinging European breeds, imported by planters in the days when shaded forests were becoming thirsty fields of sugar and despair. The gardener proceeded to pollinate by hand an open orchid, and with his lexicon to show me that Creole has no simple word for happiness. The same, of course, is true of Panda language. I said, you could invent one. You're a poet. We want to know how it feels. Then we'll find a word for it. Let's see. Darwin conducts an interview. Shy shell, gray shell, have you any morals? No, sir, no, sir, I'm a normal barnacle. Pocked shell, stuck shell, can you cling to metals? Rusted hulls and dented kettles, whalebacks, clambacks, brown glass bottles. So many wet, unseemly venues. I want to write a treatise on you. Cemented to a skiff for life, hot the docks and cold the oceans. Okay, a little bit of 1970s nostalgia here. It's called The Turtle Race, 1970. It dedicated to my kids who are in their 50s, but never mind. The Turtle Race. I don't suppose you two remember how the people in Ann Arbor wanted peace and not quite knowing what to do, gave a benefit bake sale and fair in the park beside your elementary school. A spot I now consider paradise, although I didn't at the time, because I didn't think of all the future evenings when you guys would be far from home and would not recall the wacky turtle race. A dozen kids and a few grad students placing reptilian rivals on the race course that is in the middle of a huge grass circle. Then crouched at the edge, the pet owners called the shell-bound, hard of hearing animals, unwittingly at war with one another, coaxing, "Come on, Lulu, Henry, over here," until one creature strayed across the finish line and fell into the arms of a kid who seemed as pleased as I do every time you travel to the door where I wait in times of peace and times of war. So the third section is called Beautiful Adieus, and it's mainly about goodbyes of different kinds. And it has definitely its confessional side. This one is called The Wrong Marriage. When Annie and Lucy and I wanted to spend the summer in Italy, Mother didn't approve. 3 sophomore girls abroad on their own. So my 2 best friends traveled to Tuscany without me. Back at school in the fall, they laughed like 2 ninnies, recalling their dusty walks between Fiesole and Firenze. Invited to tea with some signora, they had to scrub the dust from between their toes in order to wear real shoes. Lucy is in her 80s now, a widow. Annie is gone, and I'm 84. The syllables of their summer, Duomo, gelato, pensione, passeggiata, revolve in my brain. I envision their sandaled feet, the formal signora, and a Tuscan boy who follows them along the dusty roads. So many scenes of them, so few of me, by myself, swimming the lake of my childhood, and in my room, reading the Odyssey until one afternoon I opened the door to a Harvard boy who gave a stiff speech about Homer and proposed the marriage my mother approved right away. This little one is called The Calling. It's noon. On his side of the plexiglass, the turbaned driver listens to his radio set low. Spoken verses interspersed with sinuous tenor responses. I like that song. Where's it coming from? Pakistan. And it's not a song. I don't understand the calls or answers. I know. That's why we let you listen. Let's see.
No, I'm going to use the bathroom.
How much time do I have, Malika?
You can keep going. We are totally happy. I am enjoying this so very much. The musicality and just the images, it's gorgeous. So you keep reading. I think we're all happy.
All right. Fine. Let's see. I've never read this aloud before. It's the title is all in caps, which is not the usual, because it was a sign on the back of a truck. Construction vehicle, do not follow. Part 1. On a ritual walk, I wondered why so many letters to my children lay unanswered. That's when I saw the truck and its grand refusal. Sudden red and yellow ribbons and an odor of warm corn chowder emanated from the vehicle. Chimes were heard. I deciphered a tattoo on the driver's shoulder. Endurance. Wasn't that a vessel lost 100 years ago, though the captain recovered his crew? The man at the wheel could have yelled as I stumbled, "Lady, it's not about you," but he turned on the chimes and played a tune used commonly to peddle soft ice cream. I hopped on a city bike. I won't say where I rode, as I hope to return sometime to where men and women, old as me, older than I thought I'd ever be, labor on constructions higher than mountains. Part 2. Next thing I knew, I was singing like a courting finch or mourning dove. If steamrollers and cranes could write a song, it might be "Follow thy fair son, unhappy shadow," and I might follow mine to the home of my old phantoms. Father, thin as oyster shells and ill. Mother, who took so long to die that brother feared he wouldn't get to be an orphan. Now all of them are gone, and I follow a forbidden vehicle through the town with my companion, Hildegard von Bingen, studious and stubborn nun. We seek a common sanctum where our letters can grow warmer and warmer, whether or not they are answered. Okay, this could conceivably offend someone, but I don't think so. Dear kids, kids' wives, kids' kids, may you live long and well enough to carry out these end-of-life instructions. Mind you, I mean end, not pass. When I'm not here, I won't be anywhere. Anyhow, the time will come for you, for all of you, to take what's left of me and scatter it in any pleasant spot except the upstate plot where lies my mother in her fragile wrap beside my father under a toy flag awarded yearly by the Scouts. Rather, travel through the Massachusetts mountains where two of you most beautifully had a clan marriage. Then northwards to the Maine Wooden Boat School, where a sassafras canoe could be made with a wanigan to pack me in. Launch the vessel when there's wind. Gaze, and it will disappear into the haze. Let it skirt the islands that broke loose long ago from the stoniest, most storied coast we know. These are all names of islands. Great or Little Heron, Widow, Appledore, the Spoons, the Cranberries, Eastern or Western Ear, one of the wrecks. In time, the craft will come apart and feed me to the waves, where I'll evaporate to fall as rain over the Northern Hemisphere, over the tombs of Dickinson and Beckett, Rimbaud, Rembrandt, Manet, and Cassatt. So fine a sight that as I write, I begin to miss it. The way I might miss you when I'm reduced to particles, but never mind, I want to be dispersed. After that, whatever else you wish to be or do, I'll wish it too. Love, Ma. Okay, I think this is going to be the last one. It's a little long. And if you don't know the composer, go listen to him on YouTube right away. It's called It Must Have Been Scarlotti. Was I 11 or 13? Was it a garden party or an evening musicale? Was tea served by kind Mrs. Jessie Hike or punch by creepy Mrs. Laura Hike? There's no one left to tell me. I remember almost nothing, only that it must have been Scarlotti. The dark-haired guest who played, was she Maria or Mariana, Di Stefano or Della Marcia? She knew how to tune the delicate machinery with pretty wrenches. The mechanisms need adjustment frequently. From where did the instrument appear so suddenly? Had she traveled with it, or did someone truck it in? I don't remember. Maybe never knew, except that what she played must have been Scarlotti. I'd never heard such sounds before. Plucked strings, not ringing like a bell, but tamping down the reverb to allow the next string and the next to render an uncanny melody. Crossing left hand over right elbow to play grace notes, appoggiaturas. I didn't know the term, but now I know the work was a sonata whose composer must have been Scarlotti. I went stumbling home, dazed by all the plucking, and it didn't take me long to find that I could spread the New York Times over the strings of our baby grand piano, dampening its resonance to play The Happy Farmer as if it had been written for a harpsichord, though the piece was by Schumann, not Scarlotti. Someone in the family swiped the Times from off those inner strings, not realizing I'd unwittingly discovered what is called prepared piano, and maybe should have skipped 6th grade or 7th to go and study composition, but I didn't know. I still don't know. I only know it must have been Scarlotti. Thank you, guys.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. If people want to unmute, you can unmute and just clap and ask questions. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
That was wonderful, Sarah.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Sarah, thank
Very
you.
nice. Very nice. I didn't know that vanilla was an orchid, so I also learned some
You
factual.
learned something factual, good. That's helpful. That makes me feel good. Yeah, it's definitely an orchid, yeah. And a terrible bother, apparently.
But, yeah, happened to use Q-tips to,
I-
yeah, there was quite a few details that were new. I think a lot of us were struck by the musicality, though, in the poems. I mean, besides the images and the powerful, you know, lines and twist of phrases, the musicality is gorgeous. It's hard not to just get swept up with that. And it happened again. Yes, it happened again where several times 3 or 4 of us would say the same line. And so I do want you to see all this, Sarah, because I think you'll be really surprised by, oh yeah, longing was loving in its noblest form. Ink stirred a storm. A lot of people were touched by the mother pigeon. There was one time, yeah, okay, unwittingly at war with another. Everybody loved the turtle race poem. That got multiple things there.
Honestly, I have to tell you, if you ever have an opportunity to watch a turtle race, it truly is one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. These turtles who would get almost to the finish line and then turn around and go back. Just really quite.
I don't know if I have enough time.
Sounds like Alan Wallace.
I think we should all organize, when things get better, we should all organize a turtle race. Yeah.
That's what I was just going to say. We can
zoom.
zoom in the ones that can't be there. And if you all get a turtle race, I'm there.
I have a spare turtle. I have a turtle and a tortoise. So I can,
You have to
Spare turtle.
if anyone needs to borrow one.
Awesome. Oh, that was great. I know that a lot of people have questions, so feel free just to jump in. I do not see any questions in the chat section. I was just making sure. And Judith wrote, your poems give such pleasure. And Betsy said, goosebumps, just beautiful. That was the poem about I wish to be dispersed.
Yeah.
Love Mom. Yeah, just gorgeous.
There was just an article in the Times on Sunday magazine. There was an article on how to do it. You know, keeping your back to the wind. So they.
Oh yeah, no, I got. I
Is it
wish
good?
I'd read that. I got covered in My Father a few years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't think about the practical, and that's what sprung the poem. That was the seed of the poem for you, Sarah?
No, I actually was asked to leave some instructions by a member of the family who's sort of taking charge of organizing it because the others don't want to.
Been there.
But you know, it's right. Anyway,
It's lovely, and I enjoyed hearing it. I also have to ask, that painting beside you, is that one that you did?
yes.
Oh, I love it. I thought, as you were reading, I was like, I know that's one she did. That's amazing.
That's my view out my study window. those are some books, and that's another painting I did. She
Oh, that's
doesn't really
amazing.
look like me, but it's kind of me.
I wondered, that was my other question was, is that you? Or then I also thought, well, maybe it's a relative, like an ancestor that you
Yeah.
know, connected with.
No, it's just the face that got made. Yeah.
But not, you know, it's interesting, as you were reading, I was thinking, okay, so I know she's a visual artist as well as a poet, but so did you study music? Is that why your ear is so lovely tuned and has all those
No,
slant rhymes?
I mean, I did. I took sort of the usual, you know, girly finishing school kind of piano lessons, and there are those here who know that I'm not any good on the piano.
And you still play the Happy Farmer.
I can, but I don't. I have to admit. But I did do that thing with the piano. It's just amazing. It is amazing that you can sort of make a sort of a bad imitation of a harpsichord on your piano with the newspaper.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Just anything that, you know, keeps it from resonating, dampens the sound. Yeah.
Well,
And
it sounded like Charles had a specific story with the Happy Farmer.
No,
No, did you play the Happy Farmer?
well, yeah, I had about a year's, I had enough piano lessons to play the Happy Farmer, and that was it.
Sarah, you said Robert Hendright conceivably taught your mother at the Art Students League. So I thought it was very intriguing, and I wondered, what does that mean?
Well, she studied painting in New York at the League in the 1920s, and he was there. That's all I know, because she stopped completely when she got engaged to my father.
Oh.
And I wasn't around. I couldn't complain. And she never, ever talked about it. So, but I do know that she did take lessons there, and he was there. And that's all I know. And I don't think, you know, I'm likely to be able to find out. That's why, Susanna, that's why it's just one of those things you sort of dream of. Yeah.
Thanks for asking that, Susanna, because I had wondered that as well. And I think a couple people have said things in the chat section that I think just really give a good overview of how we experience the reading. A voice that is so humble and elegant, really lovely. That was from Andrea. And then Matilda said, wonderful poems that link the past and the present. And she does have a question in this. I was struck by how memories change their shape and balance over the years. Could you talk about that, Sarah?
Wow. Matilda, by the way, is a person I collaborated with on a translation of the Women Troubadours. Was one of the happiest scholarly projects I ever had. And she was the one who really knew what she was doing. And it was a great project. Anyway, memories change. I don't think I can say anything smart about that. I don't know. Of course they do. And they get sort of embedded in a way that you have no idea whether they really whether they're authentic or not, because you remember the memory.
Exactly.
I mean,
Memory.
and you know, I certainly remember the times that my mother would leave for a while and go to France and come back with beautiful new clothes and a wonderful mood. I'm sure that's why I wanted to go to France myself, because she was always in such a great mood when she got back. And I don't know. I don't know about memories. But a poet really couldn't I don't know how a poet could quite do without them. That's for sure.
First story. Yeah, that's very true. I love Judith has, I think, something that really encapsulates how I experience your work. She said, I love how you combine a certain toughness, humor, and affecting feeling in your stances in these poems. It is really lovely how there's these visual images that really, capture this moment, but then there's also humor and there's a wit there and a toughness, but also a very gentle love in a lot of the poems. So it's just gorgeous. Yes, Elizabeth, jump in.
I also thought the poems were really generous, like the poem to the children and grandchildren, and just all of them were generous, even when there was even the tiny bit of snarkiness was generous. And I thought that they were read very generously, which I actually think you don't hear. You were reading them for us, and I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Well, you were really listening, so that was great. That's wonderful. I think my invisible friend Esther gave a workshop about reading your work, and it had a wonderful title. And the title was, There Are People Out There. That was really, really a good title for that kind of workshop, because it does seem that some poets forget that, and they kind of, they kind of just get through them somehow.
Yeah.
Even very eminent ones. Yeah.
Especially the eminent ones.
Especially the eminent ones. Yeah. Yeah. We work hard for our.
Definitely.
Well, thank you again, Sarah. This has just been wonderful. And I do just have 2 people signed up for open mic. So if anybody else would want to just jump in, we can do so. I have Judith Cronenfield first, and then Elizabeth.
Wonderful.
So we will continue to be treated by your company of your friends. So Judy, I'll come to you first.
Okay, great.
There you are.
Great, Sarah, thank you so much. I have to add to the things I already said on the chat. It was just a pleasure, truly a pleasure. So I'm so glad to be here. So I will read 2 rather different poems, different from each other. The first one is based on memory and is called Tiny Apartment Early Girlhood Recall. Our 3 rooms were once the still center of the snug world, like the Earth in the pre-Copernican universe, around which the immutable sun, planets, and stars whirred on celestial spheres, nested like matryoshkas. Summer mornings I lay late, regal in my bed, suspended stories from the grimy city streets, watching stripes of sunlight flush and vanish on the wall, hearing the music of the blinds Mother had tilted open while I slept, as they swung out from the window, cracked for the breeze's cool burst, and clattered back. Winter afternoons, stiff-wrapped in coat, hat, boots, scarf, mittens, lint on my collar, lifted away by Mother's spit-licked fingertip. I ventured out with her to the eternal village. Grocer, cobbler, tailor, butcher, counting the icy steps there and back in groups of 10, like an incantation. Always then, on our return, suddenly unbearable coats were shucked in the hall. Keys jingled into the figured bowl. Packages were dropped with mother's sigh of relief. Our frozen cheeks tingling, thawed in the steamy hothouse heat. Once the heavy door of our apartment opened and shut.
Oh,
Thank
oh, that is awesome. I love the embodiment. Like there's such a tactile experience in that poem. Thank you.
Yeah, that one came out in slant, and it's in my new book, which won't come out till an eternity from now. It's called Groaning and Singing. It's coming out from Future Cycle in 2022, if we all get there. Fingers crossed.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's wonderful. And yeah, 2022, hopefully then we can be in person for poetry readings and turtle races.
Yes, definitely. This last one is totally different in tone. And I'm reading partially because it was one Sarah commented on when we corresponded with each other. And it was in Off Course, a journal that Sarah's been in frequently too. And I love the editors there. So this
Oh,
is
that's
totally
awesome.
different. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Couple
I'm
of-
heading.
Oh, sorry. Should I not?
Oh, no worries, no worries. I just realized I had Elizabeth. Okay, I think I found you again. Sometimes it takes a moment to go through the tiles, and that's the I was going to head your way for your poem. Yay, I made it. Thank you. That helped. Waving.
Wait.
I've
Judith
got
is gonna
you
read
for-
another one.
Did I finish that one? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Did I interrupt? Oh, I am so sorry.
Oh, not to worry. I wasn't sure what you wanted us to do. Is this second one okay?
Oh, yes. Just one moment. I misunderstood. I have like in my mind, I'm trying to multitask, and this is how I make errors.
Not to
Let me head back your way.
Okay, let's hear Judith.
There we go.
Okay. Couple observed, and the epigraph is bodily decrepitude is wisdom, W.B. Yeats. In the hospital garage, he bent, limping, one hip higher than the other, shining dome of his head, white fringed, lurches out of the elevator in front of me, pushing her wheelchair, and she, haloed in white frizz, slumps forward in the seat, face turned to one side. Then, astonishingly, they stop. She breaks. He helps her up, and shuffling in her bedroom slippers, back stooped nearly 90 degrees, she leans into the handlebars and with preternatural slowness moves him towards the rows of parked cars. And I imagine the inequities in their histories must be sleeping in their graves. We balance precariously on the near side of the pointer, embodied, not. We could step off our front porch into the afterlife. But if we are lucky, we will reach such equilibrium. The dregs of bitterness over two ambitious lives unreconciled, of grief for lost momentum in the sun, all utterly expunged by the violent equality of age, the scythe before which the whole field bows.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. And people can unmute if you want to so she can hear us. Sorry about that, Judy.
No problem.
And congratulations on the new book. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Great, Judy.
Heading
So,
your way, Elizabeth, if
Elizabeth.
you, let's see, I think I've got you. Yay, I do.
Whoops, she's muted.
Okay, well, I thought of a couple poems and I rejected them because they were too sad and everything seems sort of sad and scary. And so, and this is in case, because no one was offended by that fantastic poem about what you want done, Sarah. Maybe this can offend people. Okay, it's whole different, on a different level. Okay, so this is a sonnet. And it's got linguistic terms in it. It was in Rattle. It's got linguistic terms in it. One is sibilance, which I think you probably all know what sibilance is, like sh, the sh sound, and closed vowel sounds when they're sort of ended by a tough consonant, and a consonant cluster like the. Okay? So you need to, could be distracting. And this is a poem about connection. You'll see it's a poem about connection, and it's kind of a happy poem to me. And it's called The Red Bike. At Spring Street, on the edge of Chinatown, a guy in an old car turned left into my path. I yelled, "Watch out!" And he rolled down his window and shouted back, "Oh, shut up. You are so fucking stupid." I was glad he spoke. Found a way to say hello. In a neighborhood filled with pictographs I love but cannot read. The Germanic roots, sibilants in shut, close vowel sounds in fuck and up, made me almost forget why I was there. Then I pictured my 2-year-old grandson peddling his birthday gift. How he'd look up to tell me, "Tanks," eluded by the consonant clustered thanks.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank
So
you.
good.
Thank you for your more generosity in letting us do that, Sarah.
Oh, you know, I'm hoping that some of y'all come back another week as well. Sarah brought some great friends and poets and people that names I recognize, and am enjoying hearing y'all read. That was lovely. So that was all that I had written down for open mic. If somebody would like to jump in, please do.
I have one.
Jump in, Carmen. I'm coming to you. Hang on.
Okay. Unfortunately, it's not happening. I'm very sorry I was late. I was stuck in horrible rain traffic, but I'm here. And it's interesting that there's a bicycle in your poem. Mine is not a terribly happy poem, but it's one I'm working on. It's called Sitting Here, Sun on My Back. Sitting here, sun on my back, thinking of the black man thrown back and forth in the interrogation room. It's all choreographed. His genitals smashed into the desk, door handles. Grabbing hold of the windowsill, he sees through smudged panes a woman hanging wash. 3 plaid shirts, panties, 2 sheets, clean line wash in a dirty town. And a boy riding his tricycle, peeling red wobbly wheels, S-ing through the long shirt sleeves, his head now smacking into the wet, soft slapping sheet, circled, wrapped like some Arab potentate, not yet knowing as he starts to whine. The bleeding man will make no moan. Why it all happens like this. He so small, circling fretfully, the other finally released, walking toward home on the forbidden street, black in the night, black.
Thank you so much, Carmen. That was a difficult poem to write.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you for sharing it with us. Yeah, somebody just put, Judy put moving. And I hope, Elizabeth, that you're seeing some of the comments in here, and also Judy as well, because Judy, for everybody kept writing, looking forward to the book, Judy, inequities in their histories, the violent equality of age. And Andrea put one of my favorites. And then Elizabeth, people were saying so smart and sweet about the poem, great poem. Wonderful, and thanks, Carmen.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Let me come to gallery view. That way I can see everybody. Bessie, are you raising your hand? Oh, okay, Joe, I'll come your way. Coming your way, thanks.
I wanted to acknowledge Sarah's generosity. She made the cover of my book. That's her painting,
That's great.
Random
That's
Saints.
amazing.
And I'm just so pleased with it.
Pleasure.
And I'll read the poem that the title is based on, and the painting is inspired by that particular poem. The poem's called "A Random Saint Rides the Bus." With a face of wretched scars, like layered upon the scum, in the seat beside me, she says, without prompting, I teach 7th grade social studies because I love to bend the mind like molten metal before it cools hard. She hums 1, 2 notes like commas as she talks, tuning her thoughts. My cubs that age, the hormones hit so hard, you can hear their heartbeats. Beat, beat, so loud. My cubs, every day they navigate among the flotsam. Just look at this bus, what they deal with. And you and me, right? Because we're all riding on this bus. My cubs don't know their values. They may not know their own gender. It's a race to develop personal integrity before the peer group kills them. They need somebody who will listen to their heartbeats. Somebody must say, yes, that's right. Or, no, that's absolutely wrong. Though mostly I say, there's no absolute here. But I love those emerging souls, and maybe I help shape them in some small way. You wonder what happened to my face? One of my cubs threw acid. One of my lost ones. A thin gold chain around her neck, a gold cross upon her chest. Here's my stop, she says. Have a great day. That's it. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe.
It's a wonderful book, Joe.
Yeah, I
thank
was
you.
just going to say, somebody was writing that they have, Betsy said, I have the book right here, love the title poem. And it was wonderful to have the cover. And you said that the title poem inspired the cover. Is that what you said, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
I went back and forth with Sarah by email. It was right at the beginning of the shutdown of the pandemic. And she was in, where, Albany or someplace? Or Ithaca. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were both feeling totally trapped, but it was an outlet, something to do.
No, it's nice to have that connection. So you have a pandemic book too.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I don't really, not really. Mine was already done, although.
So Joe, that book just came out, is what you were saying?
it did. It came out, I guess, during the pandemic. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
Well,
part of
glad
my
you
book
got
tour right here.
I was going to say, we're going to have to talk about, Sarah can put you in touch with me if you want to do a book launch as well.
Nice.
Is there anybody else who wanted to read? Because we're right at time. Thank you so very much for having this wonderful time together. And Sarah, thank you so much for being the person that brought us all here to celebrate your book. It was lovely to hear you read.
Well,
And you did such a nice job hosting it.
yeah.
Oh, you are very kind.
Well, it was
Thank you.
because Susanna's was so nice and Malika impressed me at that time.
Oh,
so.
thank
Found
you.
each other.
It was really lovely.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
it's easy to,
That was a lovely time too. So.
yeah, y'all have been my touchstone for the pandemic. I live on a farm, so this is my social time. And I can't imagine spending it with better people. Thank you all
By
very
the way,
much.
I live in the city and this is my
Be
social
well.
life too. So.
Come back.
Thank you. And I will send this to you, Sarah.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
so much.
Stay safe,
Great
everybody.
job, Sarah.
Love your
See
hat.
you next
will.
week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.